Hello again, Cecil County, the world. It's the 17th of January. It's Wednesday. It's cold, but it's nice and warm here in the studio where we have our virtual guest, a musician from Baltimore, Maryland, Brody Bond. Brody, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. So good to be here, Rob. It's nice meeting you before the show, too. Thank you.
We're going to have a virtual good time tonight talking about your upcoming show at St. Mary Ann's Coffee House this coming Saturday, the 20th. Doors open at 7. Tell us a little bit about what your concert goers can expect.
Well, I'll tell you what I've heard from folks before. I think they're maybe surprised to see themselves in some of the songs. So especially folks who are listening critically to the music, which is rarely everybody. But I think that a lot of the songs that I write invite other people to see themselves in the lyrics and stuff like that. So I try to make for a very comfortable atmosphere. Certainly there's elements of fun. Certainly it's relaxing and chill. But it's a thoughtful evening where I hope people can feel connected to each other, connected to themselves, and I love the way that we almost feel to get to know each other, even with the separation of somebody up front and somebody and then folks in the audience or whatever. It really does feel like you're meeting somebody and getting to know each other. And so that's the atmosphere that I like to try to create in my performances.
That sounds great. It sounds kind of like the folks that do concerts in people's houses.
Yeah,
house party.
That's
concerts.
right. That's where most of my experience comes from. I'm not a big name as a performing musician. I do play dozens of shows every year, but most of my performances are in venues like the one on Saturday in Cecil County or house shows. And it works out really beautifully. The house show idea or the coffee house idea is beautiful because people are often not coming because they know the artist or they're a fan of the artist, but they're coming because they're invited or it's a community event.
Right.
And then sometimes the artist shows up and something special happens.
Well, it sounds like I had a question all prepared to talk about music as a uniter, but
Yeah.
you kind of covered that. Maybe we'll touch on that later. But what is your style? It's you as a solo performer with a guitar singing. What is your style of music? Could you put it anywhere?
Yeah, of course. So if people are maybe not super duper musical, which is probably most people, they would probably call me a singer-songwriter because I perform the songs that I write. And it's in a genre that's just a dude with a guitar, But the music lends itself to sort of betray that genre a little bit. So like my record, which was made in really incredible studios in Nashville with players who have been on Grammy-winning projects. I don't think you would call the record necessarily a singer-songwriter record, although the songs are sort of birthed from that perspective. When I play live, and it is just me, I try to play multiple guitars, so guitars in different tunings and so forth. And I also, for a lot of songs, try to add effects to the guitars. So it's a little bit different than maybe a traditional singer-songwriter in the sense of just a person with their guitar singing great songs. Mine has a little ambient layer on it. And I like to actually refer to it as maybe more like alt folk, than singer-songwriter.
That sounds great, and I'm sure folks will really appreciate that because certain songs demand certain things to make them work, to bring them to life.
Yeah, and I think that surprise is a really important element for live performance, or at least for me, it is. So to create moments of surprise can be really important because it earns attention. You can't, as a performer, demand that you pay attention, but you can step into an environment where you're clearly up front, you've been invited to that spot, but then the onus is with you. Like, do something that maybe is a little bit surprising to invite people to pay attention to the thing that you would want them to pay attention to. And in my case, that's my songs, and I so appreciate it when any audience lends an ear and listens to my music that I did not write to perform. I wrote for me. I wrote for my own processing and healing and ideas and things I wanted to say to different people. I'm writing for me, and then the fact that anybody would listen to it is such a gift to me. So the way that I try to give back in that is to try to create these not off the wall bizarre things, but maybe just little pockets of surprises or different ways of presenting things that are still honoring the fact that we're here together to listen to music, of course. Like, it's still like a dude with a guitar playing music. Like, at the end of the day, that's what it is. But within that construct, within those confines, I do try to make it as interesting and as good as I can.
That sounds great. And you mentioned your record. Is it a record or a CD? And will you be having them at the show?
Yeah. So, man, that I could give you a really long-winded answer to this one. I recorded over the course of a couple years and a handful of trips to Nashville a 12-song project. It's released as a single LP, a single record.
Right.
But it's a collection of 2 EPs because it's a bit of a concept record, which is so highfalutin to say. But the first 6 songs are called the Mourning EP. Mourning as in sadness, MOUR. And then the second EP is called the Mourning EP as well. Mourning, of course, is dawn or sunrise or whatever. And together, the whole 12-song project is called the Mourning EPs. It's a record. It's a collection of songs and recordings that I could never have imagined making. It was kind of a bizarre run of circumstances that even led me there in the first place. I got to work with a great producer, and that's that project. And I did not actually print CDs or press CDs because there was no guarantee of selling them, and there's just a hard cost that I didn't want to take in that dimension. I had plenty of other hard costs. So all of my music is available for streaming everywhere. And at the show, you asked about the show, I will have for sale at the show custom download codes so that anybody who would typically buy a CD can instead, if they want to, buy the download code and then get the music on their computer or their phone in that way. But like I said, the music's already available everywhere: YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. But I will not specifically have CDs for sale because I'm that cool,
I have a question for you. Do you have you mentioned all the streaming platforms and everything. Do you have a website where people can check you out?
Totally. Yep. It's just my name.com. So Brody Bond, BRODY BOND.com. And there, I can give you a quick tour of the site. It's information on how to host a concert or host a house concert even. There's links to all the streaming platforms. I have some YouTube videos of songs that I haven't even recorded yet with me just playing YouTube. I got a press kit. So for folks who, like you, like the media outlets like yours, or folks that are hosting shows can get my biography and press photos and that whole thing. And contact, what else is on there? Things like that. Oh, and links to all the streaming services. So if you click the button that says listen now or something like that, it'll give direct links to all of the services you just mentioned. Right.
And you said you'll be bringing a variety of guitars. Do you have a favorite guitar that you like to play most of the time?
No, man. It's the favorite guitar is the one that's nearby and seems to be inviting itself to be played, and sometimes inviting itself to be written, used in the writing of a song. I'll say I only started writing songs that I was really proud of, and I'm like, this is a good song, and I didn't mind saying so, just a few years ago even. And in some case, so I've actually kind of grown into these clothes of feeling like I'm a songwriter, and that's a weird thing to do when you're in your middle age and you have 4 kids. And what am I saying? Oh, and so through that process about the guitars, there are certainly moments in writing the songs that are on the record and other songs that aren't, and things that I've written since then, where if not for that guitar at that time in my hands in that moment, like it's just all these random things colliding to make something hopefully beautiful and true and helpful and moving at times. So I've definitely experienced where particular guitars can invite particular songs. And that's a weird thing to say. It sounds very esoteric, but in fact, it's very real.
And very much needed.
Yeah.
We did talk about music as a uniter. It sounds like your music will unite the audience and maybe the world.
Yeah.
starting, it's already started. You're on all the platforms. St. Mary Ann's this Saturday. Doors open at 7. There's a donation is asked for, and the donations go to help the meeting grounds. So help. Thank you for helping with that project.
Of course.
After the thrill of the St. Mary Ann's concert subsides a little bit and things get back to a little bit normal, then what for Brody Bond?
Well, I'm a neighbor to your audience in Cecil County. I live in Baltimore, and I do different types of work in the creative and technical services fields for actually clients around the country. But as it relates to music, oh, you know what? I should tell you this too. One of my favorite things to do these days is I have kids that are young. They're 11, 8, 6, and 4. And they all are involved in different things. But one of my very favorite things to do right now that I actually actively participate in is I coach one of my son's basketball teams, and it is the most fun thing. So I'll be back to that. In fact, right before the performance at your place this weekend, I'll be coaching his game, and then I'll already have all my gear in the car. And as soon as the game's over, it's high fives and hit the road up to see you guys. But in terms of music, I have a couple short tours coming together for this year. A couple trips to Virginia, North Carolina. I have a longer trip scheduled to St. Louis, and of course, on these trips, I try to make as many stops along the way that still gets me back in time to not be abandoning my family on the road, but has a good number of performances along the way, and you try to keep that as you have to be very mindful of the financial aspect of that because staying in hotels every night can get very expensive. And so you call in favors and you try to find gigs where people can actually support what you're doing. And that's sort of where I'm at right now, is playing as much as I can. And I'll tell you why, is because I don't think I have specific aspirations to be like famous or whatever those cliche things are that you sometimes associate with musicians and guys that play shows and all this other stuff. I really believe in the songs that I've written as being, for some, including myself, specifically helpful for something. Like it depends on the song is what I mean. So naming experiences, naming emotions, threading that together over the course of a 3.5-minute song can sometimes just be so togethering, maybe. Like whenever I hear somebody give voice to my experiences, I always feel like a connection and like feel seen. And I think that's important. And the feedback that I've gotten is that these songs, some of them, not all of them, but some of these songs have really have gone there with people who have heard them. And I could tell you, specific stories about that or whatever, but that's pretty unexpected and pretty special. And what I'm doing with this music career, which is a second career, multi-vocational, is trying to give as much life and runway to those songs as I can. And then, I have new songs coming out all the time. But that's sort of the pattern that I find myself in, and it's a wild ride.
Well, I'll tell you what, it sounds like Cecil County's having a house party, and you're going to be there this Saturday. Anything that we missed, Brody?
No, man, I'm just thankful that you had me on. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me or has questions or wants to host their own house concert, I actually wrote a short little ebook. I put together some guides on how to invite folks that makes it very easy, in my opinion, relatively easy, to host your own house concert. And if anybody's interested in doing that or talking about that, I'd be happy to give you all the resources that I've written, which is really just an assembling from other, good sources of inspiration. So that's been really fun, and I am willing to travel, of course. And if somebody wants to check out the songs or the record, that's the best thing for me. I mean, stream the music and have me come play at your church or house or wherever else. That would be great. So I'm looking forward to meeting the folks that are coming this Saturday night in Cecil County.
And that could all start with your website, brodybond.com, too, right?
Brodybond.com. That's it. Or you can search Brody Bond, from Google or a music site, Apple, Spotify, and you'll find it.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you Saturday night, St. Mary Ann's. Doors open at 7.
Thank you, Rob. Really appreciate it. Good night.